Welcome to the Blue Dot exhibition presented by Art at Africa on the V&A waterfront here in Cape Town. You may wonder why this exhibition is called the Blue Dot. Is it perhaps a single blue dot in a pointless painting by Georges Sirot, or perhaps one plastic bottle top in an innovative portrait of Madiba by Ndubako Ntuli? No, the blue dot refers to an iconic photograph of planet Earth, the pale blue dot, taken by NASA's Voyager 1 space probe in 1990 from a distance of 6 billion kilometers away. The Earth is seen as a tiny blue speck in the enormity of space. The theme of the exhibition therefore reflects on humankind's perspectives on planet Earth and on the environmental crisis. Through its art, Art at Africa seeks to address the issues that face modern African society, such as gender equality, racial discrimination, homophobia, African identity, and the environmental crisis. The gallery believes that there's a strong interface between art and science, especially environmental science, and that art can convey messages and articulate emotions that we are not easily able to express in words. Art therefore transcends cultures, languages, and disciplines, and provides a means whereby millions of people who choose not to listen to the scientific message can be informed about, for instance, the environmental crisis. Art helps us to realize that we are an integral part of nature, and that our role on this planet is to understand and work in harmony with nature, not to conquer it. Art has been used as an agent of change, for resistance, even rebellion in Africa for centuries. Let us look at a few examples from around the continent. Sakari Camp, the Nigerian-born metal sculptor now based in London, produces evocative works that are inspired by her Kalabari heritage. She was born in the Niger Delta, and one of her most famous works, Green Leaf Barrel 2014, was inspired by the plight of her hometown, which was suffering from severe pollution caused by the oil industry. The main figure in the painting is a woman god who is creating growth from an oil barrel split in two. Another famous painting of hers is called Battle Bus, the living memorial to Ken Saro-Wiwa, which commemorates the life of an environmental activist in Nigeria who was hanged by the Nigerian authorities in 1995 for his opposition to the oil industry. Malian textile artist Aboduri Konati takes inspiration for his striking multicolored creations from the colors of traditional Malian clothing styles, but also from his country's troubled history. The bright red of his tapestries reference ethnic clothing, but also the bloody conflicts in Mali in 2012. Palato Balala from South Africa is famous for his sculpture creations. He works as a motor mechanic during the day, but after hours devises incredible sculptures and scenes using old car and bicycle parts, welding them together in what he calls stories of democracy. His recent works include South Africa's coat of arms and a giraffe made from spanners, cogs, and bicycle chains. He says, "It's all about imagination. I started in 2011 and evolved from making earrings from old cans to bigger sculptures. My stories of democracy include epic tales of the triumph of the human spirit over adversity." To many, corrugated iron is an ugly cast-away industrial material used to make simple shelters. But to South African artist Mark Hiltout, it has another perspective. He searches for discarded sheets in metal scrapyards, looking for interesting differences in color, pattern, texture, and patina. Every sheet, no matter its age or the colors it has been painted, is unified by the colors of the iron itself and by gnawing rust. To him, aged corrugated iron is endlessly complex and gloriously imperfect, something that only time can create, and is symbolic of the struggle of poor people in South Africa to overcome overwhelming odds. His sculptures are an ode to the poor. Sculptor Kara Skuman, one of Art of Africa's artists, is passionate about biodiversity conservation. In her father's foundry in Bloemfontein, she melts down the aluminium components of car engines as her revenge against these pollution-belching machines, and casts the liquid aluminium into beautiful artworks and bowls with evocative names such as leaflet, bird nest, and coral bleach, many of which focus on the issue of species extinction. Davis Ndungu, a dedicated craftsman here on the V&A waterfront, is also sensitive to environmental issues. He collects discarded flip-flop sandals from the seashore, glues them together into multicolored blocks, and then carves highly innovative sculptures of animals and mythical creatures from the blocks. Let me give one example from the music world. Ugandan pop star Bobi Wine has spent his career singing about social injustice. In 2017, he took things further by running for and winning a seat in the Uganda Parliament, and now he is running for president. Although he has been jailed, beaten, and charged with treason, he recently led a star-studded galaxy of African musicians and politicians who composed and performed songs about the COVID-19 pandemic. He has also launched a collective call to action, #Don'tGoViral, and invited creatives from all over the world to share their work on his blog. He argues that in this time of crisis, humanity needs artists and cultural entrepreneurs to bring people together, to activate their collective intelligence and their shared humanity, and to translate information into everyday language that everyone can understand. He also emphasizes that while it's important to prevent COVID-19 from spreading, it is equally important to prevent misinformation and discrimination from going viral. Art at Africa has built a strong reputation for meaningful thematic exhibitions, and the Blue Dot is no exception, as it addresses arguably the biggest challenge facing humankind, the environmental crisis. Of course, the environmental movement did not start with space exploration. As far back as the 10th century, an Islamic zoologist, Al-Jahiz, who wrote a 10-volume book of animals, marveled at the diversity of living and extinct beasts and called for their protection. In the 14th to 16th century, epidemics in Europe led to a greater awareness of the importance of natural environment to human well-being, a timely reminder for us today. In the 1700s, air balloonists looked down for the first time on the damage wrought by humans on Earth and called for more rational planning. The pollution caused by the first industrial revolution in Europe in the 1800s raised alarms about the human health consequences of environmental degradation. One of the first environmental NGOs, the Coal Smoke Abatement Society, was founded in 1898 by an English artist, Sir William Richmond, who was frustrated by the pall cast by coal smoke that interfered with his landscapes. The poet William Wordsworth, who travelled extensively in the English Lake District, wrote that it is a sort of national property in which every man has a right and interest, who has an eye to perceive and a heart to enjoy. In the USA, conservationists such as John Muir and Henry David Thoreau stimulated the establishment of the first national parks and the protection of rare species. In the 1940s, Aldo Leopold wrote a Sand County Almanac, in which he promoted the development of a land ethic that recognized that maintaining the beauty, integrity, and health of natural systems is a moral and ethical imperative. After the Second World War, environmentalists such as Gro Harlem Brundtland, the Prime Minister of Norway, and the author Rachel Carson focused our attention on biodiversity loss. And from the 1960s onwards, green political parties took the fight into the political arena. The formation of global environmental organizations such as Greenpeace and the World Wildlife Fund accelerated this process, and the publication of the World Conservation Strategy in 1990 by the IUCN emphasized that humans are totally dependent for their survival on nature's ecological processes and life support systems, and laid out a clear path for sustainable living. A series of international conferences, starting with the UN Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm in 1972 and the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio, focused international attention on the growing environmental crisis. But increasing fears of nuclear proliferation, ozone depletion, global climate change, acid rain, sea level rise, and coral bleaching also made people feel helpless about what they as individuals could do to avert the global crisis. This is where the space program came in. I believe it was those images of Earth from space that finally united people and made them realize how unique, small, and fragile our planet really is. The blue dot and the photo of Earthrise taken by Apollo 8 astronauts in 1968 was a call to action to which everyone could respond, and it is therefore the perfect metaphor for the environmental crisis. We now realize that through our actions, we are bringing about the first mass extinction caused by a living organism rather than a cataclysmic event like a meteorite strike. The COVID-19 crisis has furthermore made us realize that our true place in nature, what it really is. Although we arose from and survived through a biological process, most of us are no longer part of wild nature. We have evolved from hunter-gatherers to shopper industrialists and become servants of our machines, trapped in unsustainable urban environments. But this does not mean that we are outside of nature and free from her checks and balances. Quite the contrary. Through the disruptions that we have caused, we are more susceptible than ever to what nature can throw at us. The COVID-19 crisis has made us realize that we are still an integral part of nature. Despite our superior intellect and advanced technologies, a simple, invisible, but highly effective virus has brought our civilization and our economic systems to its knees. This should remind us that we are the misfit in nature, not the other species, and that the biosphere is in the habit of rejecting misfits. It is a self-correcting system that favors the fittest. Art is one of the most powerful means of communication developed by humans. It is like visual poetry in that it cuts to the core of meaning. I salute Art at Africa and its artists for the role that they are playing in bringing the environmental crisis and other challenges to the attention of people. I'm sure that the Blue Dot exhibition will be a beacon of hope and a very meaningful call to action. It's now my pleasure to declare this exhibition open.